Hey, White Sox fans, it's Brett Ballantini here hosting Southside Sox podcast number 30. And we're tripling up with Sean Williams. It's Camelback Confidential number 3. All right, let's figure this out. 3 games Sean Williams has shot for Southside Sox. 3 wins. Not coincidentally, the first game he shoots probably starts. I could track it. I haven't looked at the schedule, but probably started this hot streak to end the spring. So White Sox, we know you're listening, maybe even watching. You might be one of the 5 or 6. Get this guy to Camelback Ranch. If not Chicago, get him to Camelback Ranch. Lucky Charm. It's Lucky Charm, Sean Williams. Welcome to your very own Camelback Confidential.
Glad to be here, and I'm glad someone brought it up and I didn't have to do it. You know, they say numbers don't lie, and the team's undefeated while I'm out there. So I think I should just keep going. And, you know, if they lose a couple along the lines, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt and I can just stick around for a little while.
This is not the Dugout Metrics podcast, but listen, we pay attention, you and I both, Sean, enough to the numbers to know, come on, 3-0 is 3-0. Let me do the math quick. I think that's 162 win pace over the course of a regular season. I like those odds. I think they need to be dialing you up.
It could be the best team ever, and I can play a major part in it. Who would have thought?
Get Sean in the front office. Okay, until you're in the front office, Sean, you've been shooting a Saturday, and then this past Sunday, awesome comeback win. But I'm interested to know, you've given us a little taste. I think the first podcast we got back on together, just of sort of what the process, stepping through what your process was and sort of sneaking back to the backfields and shooting there, which was sort of some cool insight. And now I guess I'd like to start this one before we get to the very obvious roster issues and the fact that the team took off in the second half of spring training. I'd like to talk a little bit about the things that you've noticed shooting, perhaps some tendencies of players, little things you've noticed being there that we're not going to see on a TV broadcast, or we might not even see if we're in the stands at the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So kind of now that fans are in the stands, this is kind of a cool aspect to see again, is just like the different players that interact with fans and you know, who gets big round of applause, stuff like that. So in terms of like interaction and stuff, Tim Anderson is definitely up there as someone who is shocking, right? Someone who's always interacting with the fans. You know, the way it's set up over at Camelback Ranch and all spring training stadiums, for what I know, is the players, you know, they walk along the outfield line and up to the dugout when they come in, and you know, some guys do like a little wave and like acknowledge that way, but you know, not really doing too much. But Tim Anderson, you know, anytime someone says something to him, he'll look over to him, he'll say something back. Like there was this one game, I think it was the second one I went to, some guy was wearing a Tim Anderson bat flip shirt and he was pointing it out to him. He's like, Tim, look. And he was like, I need a bat flip today. And he was like, I got you, you already know. So stuff like that's cool to see. So you get a little
Sean,
bit of that.
are you referring to the world famous SB Nation Southside Sox Breaking Tea stick talk, or is there some kind of weird bootleg bat flip t-shirt?
It was a different one.
Oh, come on.
It was just a little picture of him, and it was like the backside of him doing the bat flip.
Oh, for crying out! Had to interrupt, but now I wish I hadn't. Okay, please continue.
I should have had a shirt.
Just giving stuff away. Sure.
Let me get you set up with something. It's promo night. So it's cool to see. And, you know, Tim's kind of taken that mentality to be leader of the team and stuff. So obviously, you know, you kind of expect someone like him to do that. And it's always nice to see it. Then other than that, you know, I was on the backfields for a little bit. There wasn't a whole lot going on there. I did notice that Zach Collins and Gavin Sheets spent a lot of time together. I truthfully, I don't know if this is something that they've done in the past or not. But even like in the dugout and stuff, when they're both on the bench, they were side by side then too. So it's kind of interesting to see kind of, you know, like who's hanging out with who. Got to see Michael Kopech and Garrett Crochet play catch with each other one day, which is cool. Really loud catch too. But then other than that, you know, you get to see the way spring training works too, is when players are subbed out, they leave the same way they came in. So in between innings, they'll walk back out, you know, right where they came in. So fans will get to see him again. And, you know, you got like Abreu and TA and Mankata that get big round of applause and stuff from people. But Eloy, he is by far and away the fan favorite. And it's sad to bring up because we're not going to get to see him for a long time, but he got just a massive round of applause every single time. And his personality, he's a bubbly guy. So he was eating it all up, putting his fist in the air, clapping his hands, smiling, tipping the cap. So it's obviously awesome to be back in a baseball stadium and see live baseball, but seeing stuff like that's really cool too.
It's telling with Eloy, given that the one shot I think I've seen of him after injury, he was slinged, and yet he's still gesturing to the camera. He's still smiling. I don't know what it's going to take for the guy to have a bad day, but I don't know that we've seen it since he's been a member of the White Sox. So, good for him there, trying to put a smile on a really grim and rough situation. I always felt, man, you want to talk about being a guy. You might feel like a VIP because you're right up there on the rail. You're taking shots. You're roaming where you want to go. But when you're a beat writer and it's not even the end of the game, you go to talk to the starting pitcher after he's removed in game because that starting pitcher wants to ice and get the heck out of there before the game's over. Spring, right? You get to just you walk along the field after the game. You go down. You go onto the field to walk through to get back. You feel like you should be there. And let's face it, one look at me says I shouldn't be there on the field, but still you're like, oh yeah, okay. Granted, there's probably 50 people left. You're like, yeah, right, yep, no autographs, but anyway, okay, 3 wins. Let's talk about the comeback win against Arizona. Yep. Big flurry. What was it? A 6-spot, 5-spot or something? Late 8th inning, I think. With I think pretty much, I don't want to say scrubs, but certainly not the starting lineup. So the fact that the White Sox have shown some fight here in the second half of spring training, turned their losing record, their dismal record with 600 ties, into now above 500 to the point where now they can't have a losing spring, which I don't think any of us would have guessed 10 games in. What have you seen? And, what does it say about these guys, not giving up even in spring, but, wanting to show, because the fight, the second half of the show we'll get to, but the fight for those roster spots is fierce. And these guys are really putting it on the line.
Yeah. So it definitely, you nailed it there. It's been like 2 completely different seasons from the team. And kind of just like one thing I noticed, granted, I'm not able to watch like every single game, but I still try to keep up with it and stuff during the week and whatnot. But kind of one thing I noticed is you're getting like a little bit of everything with the Sox from spring training, especially towards the end of it, where you'll have a couple of games where the starters, they're firing away and they're looking awesome and they're scoring runs. Everyone's picking up hits. And then you have games like Sunday where it's a bunch of unsung heroes and the subs come in and, you get those fresh legs and fresh bats in the lineup and they're, fighting for a spot or fighting for, an affiliation that they're being sended to and they're playing hard. So you got to be pleased for the most part with top to bottom, a lot of the stuff you're seeing. And that's just kind of how it's been. It's like been one way or the other with the Sox, but hey, someone's contributing to a win. So I'm not going to complain, who's taking part in it that day.
We are incorporating Sean Williams's shots into our coverage. We'll be doing that all year. The first shot we used for an actual game recap. And let me tell you, if anybody had this guy in the pool for the first Sean Williams shot we're going to use for a recap, if anybody picked Marco Hernandez, please get in touch with me because you need to handle all my financial planning and all of my decisions to ever play the lottery because that was an interesting one, and listen, the guy had what amounted, I think, to the game-winning single in that rally. And it's like, okay, wait, there are no shots available, through the usual means. Maybe there wasn't even somebody shooting that game from Getty USA today. They certainly weren't up quickly. So it's like, all right, I'm pretty sure I saw a Marco Hernandez shot. And in fact, we in fact have several Marco Hernandez shots from Sean, which is great. And that's what really helps us. I mean, this from shooting the rookie action, even more so than the fall league, the rookie league in Arizona. Getting those guys is invaluable, particularly back in the day when their next stop was going to likely be Great Falls, which is a very challenging place to have a contact. I've never found one in all the years I've been doing this, to get somebody to shoot or write or report from there. So you've got this dead zone that could last a season plus between getting them then to Kannapolis, where we have a lot of coverage, or Winston-Salem, where we have coverage. So it makes it really crucial for you to sort of get them between DSL, which again is sort of like invisible, and Great Falls, which wasn't, or which was invisible. So, the fact that at this stage in the major league camp, the major league / alternate site camp, you're able to get some of these guys who you might not think, oh, well, do they matter? Are they going to make the team? Whatever. Hey, it's valuable to have. And the fact that the more names we can get sort of in the Rolodex to know we got something, it's invaluable to me. So thanks for doing that.
Yeah, of course. I'll be honest. I used to just go into it way back when I started. And I used to just be like, all right, I got a handful of guys that I want to get pictures of and that'll be it. But then quickly and over time, I learned, you can never have enough shots of anyone, because for websites like us and stuff, you never know when you're going to need them. And it's good to just have it just in case. So now I'm at the point where I'm taking pictures of everyone and everything. So probably more than I need, but hey, like I said, you can never have enough, I guess.
As long as at some point you can identify who it is you shot, then you're good. If you have a big dead letter file of guys like, geez, I don't know, is he a trainer? Is he a kid? Oh my God. All right. Okay. We've established 3-0 and the White Sox need to hire you. Okay. That we won't keep beating that, and I'll keep you from having to do it by mentioning it myself. But definitely a hot streak to end the spring. And though it's still spring, and the second half is where it counts more, because that first half of spring was like the ridiculous, like 4.5 inning games and just call innings off. And the game, we just decided randomly the game's going to go 5 innings and 2 outs. These last couple of weeks have been, more or less real games. So if you had to do well in one half or the other, you're obviously going to choose ramping up for the season in the first place, but also that these are more real games. And I imagine even in this last one Sunday, the realness and the feel of it was probably more intense even than maybe say that first Angels game you shot. Do you think there's something to be made of the fact that the team's putting together at the right time? We got one more spring game before the season starts, that they're ending the spring so well, and that could catapult them into a good a road trip to begin the season?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, like, spring training isn't the be all end all, but like you were just saying here, like, we're getting close to the regular season. It starts this week. They're playing 9 innings. Starting pitchers are going. The goal is to do 5, maybe a little more. So it's pretty dang close to like about a real game at this point. So I think them kind of clicking and guys, being out there and playing more often than say they did before in the beginning of spring training kind of, says a lot. Says that they're ready to go. They're not, taking it lightly, and they're out there getting good reps and getting meaningful reps and just getting ready to rock and roll here for Anaheim.
All right, we are going to take a short break. We're going to get into the machinations of the roster, which is none of those machinations are official, but hey, it's a podcast. We can speculate, and we're going to do that in the second half. I'll be back with Sean in just a second. Hey, White Sox fans, if you blinked and you're watching us, hey, we're back. No commercial message at all. I think there was just one on the podcast, so there you go. It's a very important one, though, so please pay attention to whatever it said. Throw down the money for whatever it asked you to buy, because, well, we wouldn't give you some shoddy advertisement in the middle of the Southside Sox podcast number 30. I'm here with Sean Williams, who's our Camelback Confidential dude. He's been shooting games for us. We're hoping he'll be able to continue to shoot as phase 2 spring training begins with all the other guys, AA, both single A's, rookie guys, perhaps show up in Glendale as everything gets changed out once camp breaks here this week. And we're hearing some stuff about the roster, Sean, and it's surprising stuff. None of it's official. I think the closest to official is, it certainly seems like Jonathan LaCroix has asked for his release. I'm going to speculate here. Tell me if it sounds right, that the Sox told LaCroix that he could be, of course, he has the option to go to Schaumburg, I suppose, but that if he could make the roster, but he would be the clear third catcher, and the reps wouldn't be, that they were looking at Zach as the backup. Mm-hmm. They could have outright said, you're not making the team, but either way, you can understand why. With the spring he had, 333, 478 on base, called a game that Dallas Keuchel went out of his way to rave about, which I thought made him a lock to be on the team, because it seems to me like Tony La Russa's most important criteria for a catcher is the game he calls. That's probably a Yadi Molina holdover thing. But so I'm sort of shocked that they're apparently taking this direction. But just as the first piece of several we're going to talk about here, was your reaction to hearing that LaCroix, contrary to what we all thought, wasn't even going to be on the White Sox this year?
Yeah, well, my first reaction was we wasted so much time talking in past podcasts about how he was definitely going to make the team, and Zach Collins did no shots. That was my first thought. But I'll be honest, I was actually a little surprised, and I kind of started looking back on it a little bit too. And he really hasn't played that much recently, so I don't know if this has kind of been in the works for a little bit. But he went from playing pretty frequently, a couple times a week, even as a sub in a game, to like really not playing at all. Yeah. But yeah, I was surprised. He seemed like a Tony La Russa guy, someone that he wanted to bring into the organization. And, you got to tip your cap and give a lot of credit to Zach Collins. I know part of it the reason he's making the team does involve Eloy being hurt and kind of having to shift around who's playing where now. But, he had an awesome spring and he battled for his spot and he won. So got to give a lot of credit to him. And obviously, we got Yermín Mercedes too. That was surprising as well. I know we didn't talk about it yet, but now we can kind of trickle into that too. He's making the team too, which I think I was a little more surprised about that, to be honest.
I mean, who doesn't love Yermín Mercedes? Okay. And I appreciate we got a dog cameo. It's about time. It's been a long time since we've had one, Sean. Come on.
I try to keep him quiet, but I got home from work like shortly before I had to come up and record. So he's already mad at me.
And listen, your pup heard that Yermín Mercedes made the team, and he's like, I don't blame him. All right, so let's talk about this. I love Yermín Mercedes. He didn't have a good camp. He apparently has a pretty good gun. He seemed to lose that at some point, maybe late in his Sox minor league career. I don't think his numbers were that great at Charlotte, or I guess we're just talking about 2019. I don't know that it was that great in 2019. I think prior to that, he was indicating he was flashing a pretty good gun. And it seems like in spring games, for what that's worth, he was gunning guys down. But he's not a catcher. If you had told me Jonathan LaCroix is going to release because the Sox were going to go lean with two catchers, I'm going to say bold move. However, okay, that's the direction you're going. You got a lot of confidence. Yasmani Grandal's not going to get hurt. He wants to play 800 games a year. Okay. But the fact that they're still going with three catchers, Yermín Mercedes, a right-handed bat, who's obviously suited for DH. Mm-hmm. He's not going to be starting games at DH from the right side. Clearly, this is not a very efficient podcast moment because I'm flabbergasted. So please take over, and I'm slow, Sean. Explain to me why this is happening.
I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I really didn't expect that. I mean, it's not official, but
right.
He posted on his own Instagram account that he made the team. So I don't think he would just be doing that.
Yeah, he's not shy on social media. He's not confident on social media.
So I guess it's about as close to official as it can be with it still being unofficial. It was really surprising. He's not really a good catcher. That's known to everyone. Like, it's just how he is. So I don't know, maybe they like his bat and they're going to try to plug him in a little bit. There's not going to be a ton of playing time.
All right. Your dog is chewing your internet cord here. So I'm going to interrupt you for a second.
Zach Collins now is probably all good now.
Yes.
Okay. So I was just saying, there's not a whole lot of playing time for Yermín. Zach Collins is going to be on the team. He's going to be the primary DH, especially against right-handed pitchers, which they're going to see a lot of in Anaheim. So I guess, I don't know, maybe they're going to try to figure out a way to maybe put Yermín in against lefties or something like that. I don't know. I don't think there's a ton of room for him to play, but he's an entertaining guy, another fan favorite. So, I'm happy for him. And I will give him this. He has a really, really cool story. So him being here and making the opening day roster, it's honestly awesome to see. So I'm happy for him. I'm sure a lot of people feel that same way, but it's going to be tough for him to find his way into the lineup.
Okay, for those of you who routinely listen, and God bless you for doing that, thank you, and never watch, please just for a second, maybe even pause this podcast. Just go over to our YouTube channel. You can click on it. It's in the post, and take a look because I want you to just watch a little because I seem to come across awfully angry all the time. I guess I'm perfect for talk radio because I'm always up in arms, but I'm smiling all the time. I'm laughing all the time. I'm gesturing all the time. So really, I'm not as angry as I seem to come across. But Sean, okay, let's move on to the next piece, which is apparently a precious roster spot for the pennant aspiring Chicago White Sox is going to be taken up by Jake Lamb, who is a third baseman. He can play a little first. Apparently, I've heard that he offered at some point, somewhere, somehow, to play outfield, which would presumably be left field for a team when he was signing or auditioning or something, which is great. It doesn't mean he's ever played a single game in the major leagues in left field. So you might as well throw Andrew Vaughn out there. So it's not a.
I was going to say we got another one of those already.
So we're going to devote a roster spot, and let's just say we're catching lightning in a bottle. And then there's going to be some Tony La Russa magic that says that Jake Lamb is going to be hitting like he did in, I want to say 2016-17. He had 2 really great years in Arizona. For about 3 years, he's done nothing. He had an audition with Oakland at the end of last year and into the playoffs, faced the White Sox in the playoffs, where I think he had 13 games. He kicked ass. Great. Good for him. But again, I'm flat. You're gonna have to rescue me because I'm flabbergasted as to why this, why now, how, why, what are we doing?
Yeah, it came at an interesting time because obviously, we should know it's Monday when we're recording this. We should know probably tomorrow what the White Sox roster is officially going to be. So obviously, signing someone today, you're signing him with intent. So I think he's definitely going to be on the roster. But he was pretty good in Arizona for a couple of years, like you said, and obviously La Russa did work there before. So looks like we got another La Russa guy here. Kind of some interesting ones so far. Maybe this one will stick around for a little bit longer. But it's interesting. He's okay depth, but he doesn't really move the needle too much for me. I mean, he did have a small sample size, but he did have a nice little rebound in Oakland there. So I guess his most recent time on the field was okay. So I guess we'll just go with it.
We're gonna have to pause here. I'm gonna need my makeup person to come in because I feel I'm turning red and sweating just talking about this stuff. Okay. Going into, I think I wrote this down when I was doing the dugout metrics with the guys last week, because we were talking a little bit about this stuff too. And Lord knows we did not know what was coming. So I think I had my 4-man bench as Danny Mendick, who benefits from the injuries, and they're going to need him for infield depth, given that Leori is going to be pretty much starting in the outfield. Jonathan LaCroix, which we all sort of guessed was going to be happening. Zach Collins, I did think a third catcher was going to happen. Again, the injury certainly helps that, but maybe not even with the injury. I could see him maybe sneaking his way on there. I could see a reason to have a third catcher. And Billy Hamilton, because why not? We have Billy Hamilton, so I guess he's going to be on the team, which is not an ideal bench, but given the injuries, okay, seems reasonable. Now we have Jake Lamb, who will back up at third base. Yermín Mercedes, who will dump Gatorade on people. Zach Collins, who's going to hit the crap out of the ball. He's going to be the backup catcher. He's going to sub in. He's going to obviously be a DH, I guess, against righties, and maybe Vaughn gets a blow. I don't know. Okay. He's going to see some time, right? Okay. And Billy Hamilton, again, why not? Collins aside, I don't know if I like any of this bench. I'm not sure if I like any of what the options were. I think I liked all of them better. I mean, I might even prefer a Nick Williams to a Billy Hamilton at this point. There's no, again, you gave the caveat, and I guess it makes sense because this is going to be a silly fan fiction podcast. If it turns out everybody's wrong about what this roster is and there's 12 more moves being made, I guess we'll just have to, I'll dial you up tomorrow and we'll have another quick Camelback Confidential
emergency podcast.
Exactly, to correct all the mistakes we made. But Leury Garcia is not playing in the infield. He's going to be starting in the outfield. In most cases, the infield depth is Leury Garcia, even if he's not, the days he's not playing the outfield. So we have one piece of infield depth. We got like 8 first basemen. We got about 12 DHs. We have Billy Hamilton, which, okay, I guess if you're looking at him as your starter, then Leoria gets bumped to the infield and he can just be the infield sub. It just seems strange. I mean, is there a method to some madness here? I get that it's Jake Lamb in a bottle, and because it's Tony, things are gonna be good. And who cares? He's gonna play once a week. I understand we're nitpicking this bench, but okay, it's a bench for, again, a pennant aspiring team. And we should probably be scrutinizing those players 20 to 26. And we haven't got to the last pitcher. I don't think there's any controversy there. So it'll be a nice way to wind things up. But this bench has perplexed me. And, I don't want to be talked off a ledge because the lineup is great. Even without Aloy, it's strong. This team looks good. They're putting it together at the right time. But is there anything I'm missing here in terms of the wisdom or the logic that could play out better than I'm thinking? I mean, I'm no Danny Mennick fanboy, but he provides flexibility and even the ability to get out there in left field. And you think a guy like La Russa is going to he's going to manage, right? He's going to play 5D chess. And you think he would like the option to be able to switch guys around. And I'm not sure he's able to do that. There's a lot of handcuffing going on here with this bench.
Yeah, it's not ideal, but you got to keep in mind too that the injuries they're kind of getting hit with, they sort of had to scrap together a plan here kind of late in the spring. I don't know, Lamb being left-handed and having some pop, not having to play, too often could be a nice little bench piece. And you'll get Adam Engel back somewhat soon. I don't know how soon, so you can add him to that. I assume, if I had to guess, he'll just take Billy Hamilton's spot when he's ready to go. So you'll get that as a nice little bench piece back. And hey, if Fawn's out there playing left field like he's kind of been trying, and he ends up being someone that plays out there more often than not, then you got Leary and Engel obviously when he comes back, and that's not as bad. But I don't know, it's just it's hard for me to get worked up about it when they've kind of had to scrap together, a piece or two here at the very end of spring. But I get the concerns. They're definitely valid. You'd like to see a little bit more depth, but they're just doing what they can with what they have to work with, I guess.
You can be impolite, Sean. You can just tell me to shut up and calm down. It's all right. I mean, somebody needs to do that to me sometimes. So, okay.
Good cop, bad cop, right?
Oh man, we're back in that again. When do I ever get to be the good cop?
Never fails.
All right. Well, on the pitching side, it really does seem like, I mean, obviously the Sox are stacked. Before we get to the last roster spot, I'm going to answer my own question here, but maybe you can confirm it for me. I'm a little hand-wringing a little bit about the fact that Keuchel, Cease, Lynn have not been efficient. But then I tell myself, well, this bullpen should be able to take the ball in the 6th inning. So simmer down, Brett. I know you don't want 4 innings out of your bullpen necessarily every game, but the way this bullpen is built, you could probably by and large get away with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like Lance Lynn has been kind of a little bit wild, and he was a big starting pitching acquisition. So you'd like to see him pound the strike zone a little bit more, especially a guy that's relying on fastballs, and that's becoming his go-to. But Dylan Cease I could be wrong, but didn't he have like a perfect ERA, or he still does? So, he might be walking some guys, but you can't get much more perfect than that.
Yeah.
I liked what he saw. He showed a little bit more fastball command, and I think he's just a guy where walks are kind of always going to be a thing with him. So it's just a matter of how much he can keep that in control and not get like too wild on us. But I don't know. I have always been the person that's like, oh, I'm not going to read into spring training too much, but there's been some times where I've been like, I kind of want to see a little bit more out of these guys, especially Lance Lynn. But hey, he's a veteran, so maybe he was just kind of going out there and just getting his arm ready, as opposed to having like a specific game plan and stuff like that. But we'll see.
Warming up for basketball games, I used to say, you know what, in warmups, you don't want to make every shot. You need to get some of your misses out. You need to get your misses out in warmups. So maybe Lance Lynn's like, I'm getting all my misses up, setting everybody. He's playing the long game. He's setting everybody up like, man, he's lost it. And then he's got 8 WAR and he's Cy Young. in the regular season, I'm all in for that.
I like the way you're thinking now. See, now you're a good cop.
Turn it around. Okay, last bullpen spot seems to be, especially because some of these decisions have been made. Jimmy Cordero out for the season with Tommy John surgery. Reynaldo Lopez, who we probably would have thought was sort of a lock as that swing guy, as a guy who's going to sort of continue to get the tutelage from Ethan Katz. He's not going to be wowed by the majors. He's just going to adjust a new role. No, they want him starting, so he's going to Schaumburg. Frankly, they want him starting might be code for we want him off the team, but okay, either way, he's not going to be with the White Sox. Seems like it's coming down to Jose Ruiz and Nick Turley, who the White Sox just picked up off waivers from Oakland. And that's specifically not only because they have dynamite arms, but because they're out of options. So basically, one guy's going to make the team and one guy is likely not going to ever be with the White Sox again because it seems doubtful either one of those guys are going to pass through waivers without any claim. Turley came close. He made it all of the White Sox, but I don't necessarily see it happening. So any insight as to what's going to happen there? Turley has a Ethan Katz connection that unfortunately Jose Ruiz does not, and that could make the difference. Left-handedness could make the difference, but any insight as to how that might play out?
You pretty much just took all the words right out of my mouth there. I was going to say, Turley's left-handed. He'll give you a little bit of a balance, and I think he's pitched once this spring, if that, and he's got the Ethan Katz connection. Obviously, if they claimed him, he's someone that Ethan Katz might be able to tinker with and play around with and get something out of him. But, it's just, it's not like a bullpen arm where I'm going to be like upset one way or the other. It just kind of is what it is. Turley hasn't exactly had a phenomenal pro career, and Jose Ruiz is what he is at this point. So I would probably just give the edge to Nick Turley just based on connections. That's what I think.
Yeah, his inning with the White Sox was a 2-walk inning. So, it's certainly not, you're not going to drive decisions like this from spring training stats, but so we can't really look at that at all. Jose's been used quite a bit, but then so is Felix Paulino. So, guys, that doesn't really mean anything, either necessarily. So I guess we'll see. That's sort of like a no lose situation with Sox, because they are pretty clearly going to lose the other guy, but they got a ton of good arms, hopefully ready to sub in, because it's going to happen sooner than we want it to sub in. Hopefully not for the rotation, but maybe in the bullpen. And otherwise, there might not be painful moves made, particularly given that Eloy can go to the 60-man injured list and they can punt a 40-man decision there. And they could do the same with Jace Fry. I know he's a lot less of a lock as a guy who's out 60 more days, but it does seem like they weren't talking about anything more than May. So if they just push that to say, all right, you start your rehab at the end of May, he's already going to be doing whatever he needs to do in Schaumburg. That's another decision they can punt. And then, Billy Hamilton's got to go. Or if Jake Lamb, if Jake Lamb's got to go, then that's a decision they can make then. Who knows what else has happened or what other injuries happen that mean everybody stays because, another guy got hurt. Hopefully not, but it seems a little silly to prematurely make these decisions if they can just stash a couple guys on the 60-man. Anyway, obviously Eloy is going there because he's not probably coming back all year, certainly not till the end of the year. So it doesn't seem like a lot of pain has to be inflicted aside from this Ruiz versus Turley when it comes to cutdowns. But then who knows what else the White Sox have up their sleeve? Who else they might decide to just bring in. I guess the one thing you can say for Yermín is that he's on the 40-man already, so there's no difficulty in that decision. And I think that probably worked against Jonathan LaCroix as well. I'm not sure why that necessarily parlayed into Yermín Mercedes being a third catcher on this team, but certainly having to maneuver and dicker with the 40-man in order to get LaCroix, who maybe wasn't going to play very much, on your team, I guess I could. But see, look, I'm a good cop myself. I'm happy now. Yeah. I got nothing to complain about.
You're back. You totally understand everything now. It all makes sense.
I just keep looking at the screen. I see this little dude here, and I'm like, all right, how can I be unhappy when I've got a guy right in front of me who's just happy to be alive and on Southside Sox podcast?
He's just reminding you to smile. That's all.
All right, he's never going anywhere then. All right, well, Sean, hopefully, White Sox response is pending. Hopefully, we are going to be able to get you out to do some coverage of sort of phase 2 of, and arguably, for our purposes, maybe the more important phase of spring training, getting a lot of these guys who are new to the organization and, who are just back, who maybe you don't even have a lot in the files of to help us out when the minor league updates start ramping up, and hopefully somewhere down the line, again, fingers crossed, the season starts in May. You hopefully are going to be able to pitch in on some of our minor league writing as well, some of our nightly updates, which are more detailed than you're going to find anywhere else on that World Wide Web. So there's going to be a lot of stuff for you to do. I'm ready to just keep you working. Although, if oh my goodness, I think you've frozen on me. So I'm going to just talk to your frozen face as I wind this podcast. Oh, no, maybe you're not now. I heard the dogs barking, or man, this has been an exciting podcast. There must be a meteor storm going on.
Monday nights are crazy in my house.
The dog's like, there's no football.
What do we watch?
So yeah, winding it up, definitely be looking for Sean's photos and certainly some of his writing covered throughout the year. Again, fingers crossed that we have a good, close to full season in the minors, and we have access via Southside Sox to continue shooting at Camelback. I don't see why we shouldn't, but I've been wrong before. So thanks for doing these 3 sort of part 1, 2, and 3 of Camelback Confidential. And I am all good for continuing doing them if you're able to be there, or even if you're not, to cover Camelback phase 2, as most of our attention goes towards the minor leagues. Still, there's going to be a lot of interesting attention paid to, still some pretty plum prospects that you're going to be seeing there in Glendale.
Yeah, I would love to be able to go back and do it again here for phase 2. Definitely, like you're saying, some interesting people, some new faces that maybe no one's seen yet. They're going to be circling around Camelback Ranch. So I'd love to be able to get out there, get some pictures, get some first looks, and we'll see what we can do.
All right. Fingers crossed. Come on, White Sox. All right. Well, thanks for doing this. It's been fun. And hey, listen, we're ending on a great note. You're 3-0. Teams over 500 are not going to have a losing spring, which is always nice. Who cares about spring? But it's better than a lousy losing record. And so, we're going to take the momentum into Anaheim, Seattle. 6-1 was a 7-game start. 6-1.
7-0 if I'm there.
See, again, bad. Yeah, 7-0 if you're there. Good pick. Bad cop again. I gave him a loss, but yeah. Hey, we got opening day Thursday. But thanks for being a part of this, Sean, and let's do some more real soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, and always down to do a podcast whenever you need me.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening, sometimes even watching and reading. As always, we got a lot of podcast activity this week. It's opening week. So keep on reading, watching, and listening. Appreciate you guys. And we'll be back with more podcasts real soon.